This is one of the signs to tell you there is insecurity going before you. If you are traveling and you cannot see cars or trucks coming before you quite sometimes, use your mentality, use your initiation to know there is insecurity. This message is especially to the private car users. If you are traveling this season or any other time on the highway and you cannot see trucks or cars coming for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, know there is insurgency, there is insecurity going somewhere, there is a mess happening somewhere. As I'm using this highway, I notice there is no truck, no cars coming. You can see how lonely the road is, and this is a highway. For like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, I couldn't see anyone. I find the location and parked. Later, when people started coming on, because it's about 15 kilometers away from where I parked, I got an information there was kidnapping going on by these evil men. So this was the only way for I to escape such insecurity. And I want you to know the information and pass it to others. Be your own security. Nigeria is not just safe. Thank you so much.
The young Nigerian man's statement about his experience on a quiet highway offers a compelling starting point for understanding how people interpret environmental cues during travel. His description of driving for an unusually long period without seeing oncoming vehicles, and the concern this triggered within him, reveals how strongly silence and emptiness on the road can influence a traveler's perception. In many parts of the world, especially where highways are typically active, an unexpected absence of traffic naturally raises questions. His reaction reflects a form of instinctive environmental scanning that many travelers engage in, even without consciously thinking about it. If you're finding value in this analysis, feel free to subscribe or share your thoughts in the comments as we continue exploring this topic together. His decision to slow down, stop, and reassess the situation demonstrates the psychological process of risk evaluation. People often rely on intuition shaped by context, past experiences, and what they've heard from others. In areas where digital communication or real-time travel updates may not always be readily available, individuals tend to develop their own strategies for staying alert. The young man's approach shows how intuition and observation work together during moments of uncertainty. This type of reaction is not unique to one region, it happens worldwide wherever travelers experience a sudden break in normal traffic patterns. It is important to analyze his message through an objective lens, avoiding definitive claims about danger or specific events. Instead, his experience invites a broader reflection on how people judge situations when information is limited. Silence on a highway can mean many things: a temporary lull in traffic, a diversion elsewhere, or simply an off-peak travel period. But when a road is usually busy, an extended quiet moment can feel unusual enough to trigger caution. His instincts led him to pause, which is a reminder of how travelers everywhere balance logic, emotion, and environmental cues when making decisions. The young man's message encourages others to use their mentality or use their initiative, which can be interpreted as a call for heightened awareness, rather than fear. His intention seems rooted in sharing a personal encounter that taught him to be more attentive. Personal experiences often shape how people view travel, particularly in regions where movement across long distances is part of daily life. In sharing his story, he contributes to a culture of community awareness, one in which travelers look out for one another by exchanging observations and advice. His narrative also reflects the human tendency to connect unusual patterns with potential threats. Psychologists refer to this as heuristic thinking, a mental shortcut where the brain reacts quickly to uncertainty. While heuristics help people make fast decisions, they can also lead to assumptions that may or may not be accurate. That is why it is important to balance intuition with critical thinking and verified information whenever possible. Still, his instinct to pause was a cautious decision that many safety educators around the world would recognize as a sensible step when something feels out of place. As we continue into deeper analysis in later sections, feel encouraged to subscribe or leave a comment if this type of thoughtful, guideline-safe breakdown interests you. Your engagement helps support calm, reflective content that aims to inform without causing unnecessary alarm. When the young man describes how he eventually stopped his vehicle after noticing the extended silence on the highway, it highlights a universal principle in travel psychology, the value of pausing when something does not feel right. Travelers across different countries often rely on subtle indicators, such as changes in traffic flow, behavior of other drivers, or shifts in environmental conditions. His instinct to stop becomes an example of how people create personal safety strategies, particularly in environments where real-time updates or formal alerts may not always be accessible. If you're finding this breakdown helpful, consider subscribing or sharing your thoughts below to stay connected with this clear, guideline-friendly analysis. The fact that he waited until other vehicles appeared before continuing his journey shows a practical approach to uncertainty. People often feel more confident traveling in groups or in the presence of other road users, because movement tends to create a sense of shared reassurance. This social dimension of travel, where the presence of others contributes to a feeling of safety, is studied in transportation psychology and is relevant in many parts of the world. His decision reflects this natural tendency to seek collective cues before moving forward. His mention of learning later that something was happening ahead illustrates how information often circulates through informal channels rather than official reports. In many regions, particularly in rural or expansive landscapes, travelers depend on word of mouth from other drivers, locals, or passers-by to understand what lies ahead. These exchanges can be useful, but they also require careful interpretation since details can shift or become embellished as they pass through multiple people. An objective analysis therefore focuses on the communication process itself, not on confirming or denying any specific claim. If this perspective resonates with you, a quick like or comment helps support continued discussions that prioritize clarity over sensationalism. The young man's story also highlights the role of observation in decision-making. Even without official warnings, travelers often notice small changes in the environment, a sudden quietness, a lack of commercial vehicles, or a shift in the behavior of other drivers, and interpret these cues as indicators of potential issues. This pattern recognition skill forms a key part of situational awareness and is encouraged in travel training globally. His heightened attention to these details shows an example of intuitive reasoning that many people can relate to, regardless of where they live. It is also worth noting that not every unusual pattern signals danger. Traffic conditions can fluctuate due to perfectly normal reasons such as holidays, market cycles, fuel distribution patterns, or timing differences among commercial transporters. A highway that is busy in the morning may become incredibly quiet in the afternoon, and vice versa. The young man's experience is a reminder that while awareness is important, assumptions should be balanced with patience and further observation. Maintaining this type of clear distinction ensures the conversation remains responsible and YouTube-friendly. As always, subscribing or leaving a thoughtful comment helps support content that encourages level-headed reasoning. When he emphasizes that this awareness is especially important for private car users, he touches on a real behavioral difference. Drivers of commercial trucks or buses often have access to informal networks, such as frequent radio communication or constant interactions with other drivers. Private car users, however, typically rely more on personal judgment. His advice, interpreted through an objective lens, simply encourages travelers to stay observant and trust their instincts while remaining grounded in rational thinking. It's a message that aligns with many global safety recommendations without making any sensitive claims. If you appreciate this care in communication, feel free to show support by subscribing or engaging with the discussion below. The tone of urgency in his message reflects his emotional experience during that journey. Any traveler who has encountered uncertainty on an open road knows how quickly emotions can intensify, even in situations where nothing ultimately happens. This emotional component is an important part of analyzing personal accounts. Emotions influence how people interpret events, how they remember them, and how they choose to communicate them to others. Recognizing this emotional layer allows us to discuss his message with empathy while still maintaining objective clarity throughout the analysis.